All right, thank you, and appreciate y'all showing up. I'm not going to dazzle you with graphics. I'm very analog. I'm going to lull you to sleep with the spoken word. But as Dr. Anwar said, auto racing, motorsports, it's not just autos, but motorsports in general is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You guys are all aspiring marketing professionals. I take it as you're a member of the American Marketing Association and our chapter here at WT. So what I'm going to try and do is explain a little bit about the depth of opportunity that's available to marketing professionals in motorsports. And then when I'm kind of hopscotched around that, I'm going to tell my story. Because when it's all said and done, you sit there and you think, well, gee, you know, that's cool, but I don't live in Indianapolis, I don't live in Charlotte, North Carolina, I don't live in Los Angeles. How do I get involved? And whereas at one time I thought my story was unique, the reality is it's kind of common in how it occurs and plays out. So to start with, you may or may not be an auto racing fan or a motorsports fan, but who ever turned on the TV and seen cars go around in circles and you know it's an auto race and you say, that's cool, or you may have no interest and you switch off. But there are millions of people in this country that enjoy motorsports, they watch it, and there is a huge market for it. Now, Dr. Anwar said Indianapolis. Everyone's heard of the Indianapolis 500. What most people probably haven't heard of is IndyCar racing or the IndyCar series. It is actually a racing series which has 16 or 17 events, of which the Indianapolis 500 is the cornerstone of it. But then you also have NASCAR. Everyone's heard of NASCAR. A lot of people think any kind of racing, hey, I'm watching a NASCAR. But it is a specific series, which inside of that series, they've got the Cup Series, they've got the Xfinity Series, they've got the Craftsman Truck Series, and then they have grassroots series that go all the way down to local tracks that they sanction to carry the NASCAR name. You've got the National Hot Rod Association, NHRA. You've got the International Hot Rod Association, IHRA, sanctioning drag racing. You've got drag racing out here at Amarillo Speedway. You've got drag racing in Ennis, Texas at the Texas Motorplex. It's all over the country. You've got dirt track racing, World of Outlaws, high limit racing. You've got USAC with all of their series. So there is racing everywhere you look. You think of Route 66 Motor Speedway here in Amarillo. Some of you may have gone out and seen racing there, but every Saturday night there's 2,000 to 3,000 fans that pay 10 to 20 bucks each to go out and watch local racers compete in 6 or 7 different categories out there. What I'm getting at is there are a lot of opportunities to market because none of these cars run by themselves. They run on not gasoline or methanol, but dollars. And those dollars come from sponsorships or out of the owner's pocket. And an owner can only carry a car so long. So be it a racing series or a race team, they all employ or utilize, sometimes it's volunteer, marketing professionals to help spread the word. Every sponsor that you see on a fender, on a wing, on a tire, on a uniform is there because a company or a corporation is wanting to get their logo and their product out in the open. To do that, they have to have a contract or an agreement with the team or the driver. To do that, they utilize a marketing professional to arrange the agreement. And then once the agreement's made, that marketing professional or marketing team spreads the gospel, so to speak, whether it's to industry insiders or whether it's to the public through TV or radio commercials or print ads. Marketing is all about spreading the word, and that's something you guys have learned from the get-go in your marketing classes. Now, we've talked about the series. There's lots of series, and I didn't name them all because there are too many to mention. We didn't even talk about motorcycle racing. Some of you may watch Supercross or the road racing from Daytona. We haven't talked about power boats that are out there. We haven't talked about karting. Many of you may not be aware that I'm not going to call them go-karts because that's a misnomer, but karting is extremely popular world over. That's where a lot of race drivers get their start. If you've never seen things go fast, you need to YouTube up national karting events and watch guys race them. It's absolutely spectacular. But even those have sponsorship opportunities and marketing opportunities. So inside each series, there are numerous opportunities. Each of the series employ 1 or sometimes 10 or 20 marketing professionals to pitch their schedule, pitch their accomplishments, pitch their drivers. That's each of those series. Each racing team has someone. Sometimes it may be the driver or owner's wife. Other times it may be a paid professional team of 5 to 10 or 20 people that are promoting what the team and its sponsors and drivers are doing. So it's one of those things where you watch the cars go around, you don't realize, I mean, you think of mechanics, but you don't realize there are marketing professionals involved in all of that as well. Each sponsor, Goodyear Tire, Firestone, Pennzoil, you've all heard of that stuff, has a marketing team that pitches the product to consumers. Each car, the days of taking a piece of metal and fabricating a part and building a car in your garage and going racing is few and far between. You may do that at the lowest level of grassroots motorsports, but for the most part, cars are assembled from prefabricated parts that are purchased from specialized racing component companies. These companies have marketing professionals which pitch their product to the suppliers, the distributors, and ultimately to the teams. So again, you've got opportunities to be a marketing professional working. You think about a motor. How many parts are in a motor? You've got camshafts, you've got gears, you've got spark plugs, you've got injectors, the list goes on and on. Each of those parts is produced by a company, and that company has to be able to sell its product, and to sell its product, they need marketing. So once again, you're back to, you got to pitch your product, you sell it to a race team, the team has success, you promote that. That's where that all comes from. Where do you race? At a racetrack. Route 66 Motor Speedway, Texas Motor Speedway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Every track has some sort of organized, concentrated marketing team. It may be the track owner's family that's doing it, such as out at Route 66, or it may be like at Indianapolis, 15 or 20 people whose sole job is to promote the activities that are taking place at that track. You may have the Indy 500, but you may also have swap meets every Friday. You may have meet and greets in the garage area, whatever. But there are opportunities for marketing professionals to earn a viable living working for racetracks. I talked about the manufacturing. Teams, sponsors, manufacturers, as I said, they employ marketing professionals. Some of them may be in-house. Some of the times they outsource to a professional marketing firm. What that does is that relieves the burden of having to come up with a marketing plan and having to come up with a strategy for how to promote, and they have offloaded it to a company that exists solely for that. Marketing firms may oversee hundreds of different sponsor ideas and companies, but they have a platform which works. They utilize it for every product, and the word is being spread. I have a good friend of mine that when I was at Indiana State, he was our basketball manager, and we worked together for the Indy Racing League for a couple years. And then he decided he wanted to become involved in another manner, and he signed on with a company called True Speed Communications, and they are a marketing firm. And he has spent the vast part of the last 15 years representing guys such as Kyle and Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, Ty Gibbs, if you follow NASCAR. And he's made a great career out of that. So we've got series, we've got teams, we've got manufacturers, we've got all these opportunities to go out and pitch a product. I'm not here to say how you pitch a product. That's where youthfulness comes in. But the next question comes up as you're sitting here in this room and you're saying, well, I'm from Floydada, Texas. You know, how do I get involved with this? So that's where I'm going to tell my story here. I came to West Texas State back in the summer of 1983 after having been at several universities prior to that and not really matriculating the way that professors and university administration like to see their students advance. So I took a couple years off. I'm a motorhead at heart. I worked at an auto dealership. I rode my bike a lot. I spent 2 years just doing what I wanted to do, living on my own. And then it was, okay, Kent Johnson, you've got to go back to college. Because this is back in the day where if you didn't have a college degree, you didn't go very far. And I said, I'm paying my way. I've got to stay in the state of Texas. I want to get as far away from Fort Worth, Texas as I can. And I looked on a map and there was Canyon, Texas and West Texas State. So I rode my motorcycle out here one Thanksgiving holiday. Of course, the university was closed up solid, but it snowed while I was out here. And in Fort Worth, Texas, we don't get a lot of snow. And I just thought the place was magical. It was beautiful. As we all know, the campus is like an oasis in the Brown Panhandle. So knowing nothing really about the school, I applied, was accepted, and in May of 1983, I came out because I decided I wanted to get my feet wet during a summer session. And during my first semester, I didn't know what I was going to major in. Like many of you, when you come to college, you don't realize all the opportunities for majors, and you change your major 2 or 3 times till you find what you want. I had no idea what I wanted to major in. And I was taking a general speech class over in Old Ed that they're remodeling now. And my instructor's name was Tim Hudson, and he happened to be the head of the radio TV department. And during the first week, we had to introduce ourselves, tell where we're from, all that, yada, yada. And when class was over, he asked me if I had ever thought about doing radio. Well, all I know is back in the day, you turn on the dial, it's FM radio, album-oriented rock, and some DJ that knew about music would talk. And I said no. And he said, we have a campus station. You know, come by and let's visit. I think you might be good. And that got my start in media. And I pounded out 3 years of class work in 2 calendar years of time. Graduated from here in December of 1984, stuck around spring of 85 doing coursework. I'm not going to say grad work because I wasn't doing anything more than just spending time while I looked for a job. And in June of 85, I got a job at SMU. Now I'll backtrack a little bit. While I was here doing radio, TV, I was broadcasting Canyon High School football and basketball. I also had the opportunity to broadcast West Texas A&M or West Texas State football on the campus station. We had an athletic director that took a liking to me and wanted to help me out, so I had that opportunity. So while I was doing the broadcasting, I realized at every event I went to that I saw this one guy on the court or in the press box or in the media room. He always had a coat and a tie on, but he was at every event. And in the summer of 1984, I went over to the athletic department and was wandering down the hallway, and I saw this guy in his office. His name was John Askins. He was a sports information director. I had no idea what a sports information director was, but I stopped in and I introduced myself, and he said, yeah, I know you from the radio. And I said, well, I see you at every event. If you got time someday, can you explain to me what you do? And he kind of smirked and he said, why, do you want a job? And I'm not stupid. I said, sure. And he hired me right there as a student assistant. So that's how I got my start in sports information or media relations, as they call it. And that's, even though my title up there, well, it says Senior Associate AD, right now it's for facilities and event operations. My deep background and my foundation is sports information or media relations, public relations. So I got my start in that. I went to SMU as an assistant sports information director. I was there, if you're familiar with football history, for the death penalty. The ESPN did a great 30 for 30 about it, and at the end, in black and white, they show the room when the verdict was announced, and I was in the room at the time. And from there, I went to Tulane University in New Orleans, where I worked for a guy named Mac Brown. He was the football coach and the athletic director, and from Mac, I learned how to deal with people, how to make them think that you're their best friend to get your point across. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You know, sometimes you may not really like the person that you're dealing with, but you have an agenda that you have to get across, so you're friendly and no one knows that there's any animosity there at all. When Mac left to go to North Carolina, I had the opportunity to return home to Fort Worth, Texas, and I went to work at TCU, and I was there for 10 years. And while I was at TCU, ESPN, which was about 10 years old at the time, it was still fledgling, decided they wanted to do this novel concept of televising college football on Thursday nights. Now, now you can turn on TV just about any night of the week and see a live football game, but back in 1991 and 92, that wasn't done. And the Texas and the Southern Cals and the Notre Dames of the world did not want to relinquish their sacred cow Saturday afternoons to be on Thursday night when they didn't think anyone was going to watch. But the TCUs, the University of Houstons, the Tulsas of the world saw that as an opportunity to market themselves. So at TCU, each year we would have one, if not two, Thursday night football games televised on ESPN. Well, one of the things you used to do back in the day was the night before a televised event, you would throw a media party and go to a nice steakhouse, and you would have the broadcast crew there, the radio guys, the TV guys, you'd have your newspaper writers there. And it's all just an opportunity to get to know each other. You'd talk a little ball, but for the most part, you would just interrelate, get to know each other. And after about two televised events, I quickly picked up that half the broadcast team from this football game is going to Atlanta or going to Charlotte or going to Fontana on Sunday to broadcast the NASCAR race. So I real quick made contact with them, let them know that I was a closet motorhead, that I'd been to the Indy 500 before as a spectator and loved auto racing. Well, one thing led to another, and over the course of about a year and a half, I got a phone call from the guy who served as a sideline reporter. His name was Dr. Jerry Punch. You may or may not have heard from him. He's an actual trauma doctor that is also a broadcaster. And back in the day, he was the pit reporter for NASCAR Winston Cup. And he calls me and he says, "Hey, Kent, Darrell Waltrip, who is a 7-time NASCAR champion, is getting ready to sell his team, and the new owner is looking for someone to do PR for him. I told him about you, and you should expect a phone call." I mean, who could have drawn that up? It doesn't happen like that, but that's the way it happens. And sure enough, a day and a half later, the phone rings. It's the general manager of this race team in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've never heard of him, never been to Charlotte. And hey, Dr. Punch was telling us about you, and we think you can help us out. Would you be interested in visiting with us? I said, sure. They flew a plane down to Meacham Field in Fort Worth to pick me up and take me to Charlotte, North Carolina to talk with their management council about what I could do for them in the area of public relations and marketing. They hired me on the spot. 2 weeks later, I'm packing my bags. I'm moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. Sight unseen, really, but that was the start of my journey. As it turned out, the NASCAR team didn't do real well. We had Darrell Waltrip for a year, and then the second year, we had a series of drivers. We didn't have a lot of money. They started cutting jobs within the organization. We went from like an 8-person front office to me and the girl who was writing the checks, and that was it. So after about a year and a half, I thought, I need to find a parachute and find a place to land, or I'm going to be sitting here with a mortgage and this team's going under, which it eventually did. But I ended up at Indiana State University in Terre Haute, Indiana. what most people don't realize is that up until 2 years ago, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was run by an organization called Clabber Girl Baking Powder, Clabber Girl Baking Company in Terre Haute, Indiana. It's the Holman George family. And Tony Holman had purchased the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 1946 or 47 and had turned it into what it is today. And his son, actually, his grandson took over and was president of the company when I was at the ISU. But to backtrack, when I was doing my NASCAR deal, one of our first events was the Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And this was our first event as a new race team. So we did a PR event at the Speedway the day before the race. And I worked through the Speedway's communications group, through their marketing people, to promote the event. And it was very successful. And then I ended up at Indiana State, and the first thing I did was I picked up the phone and I called over to the Speedway, talked to the guys that I'd worked with earlier on that PR event, and I said, hey, just FYI, I'm over here at ISU now. If you need help at any of your events, I'd like to help you out. And they took me up on it. And so I worked the Brickyard 400, the Indy 500. Eventually, I helped out at the F1 race when they raced Formula One there. But I got my foot in the door. And I did that from 1999 till 2002. And in December of 2002, it's like Santa Claus came calling again. I get a phone call, and it was from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's actually from IndyCar, but it's all an arm of that. And they said, we're looking for a media relations director. Would you like to represent our series? And I thought, this is going to be the job to end all jobs. I went over, visited with them. Took the job. I did it for a year. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But in doing that, I met more people nationally, locally. If you're into IndyCar racing, Indianapolis is the place to be, and that's where I was. So I spread my branches, so to speak. And when I got out of that, I got a call from a team called Andretti Green Racing. And anyone that follows motorsports at all knows the name Andretti. This was partially owned by Michael, son of Mario, and then another gentleman named Kim Green. And we had 4 cars that we ran at every race, and at Indianapolis we ran a 5th car because Michael ran twice, and I was with them from 2004 through 2007, and won Indy 500. I got my winner's ring here. We had 2 championships, and it was just a multitude of successes. We had 4 cars. We were backed by Honda. It was like working for the New York Yankees in motorsports, and it was great. And everything rolls along, but motorsports is one of the most volatile industries you can get into. And I'm not saying this to scare you, but like any technologically driven industry, it is vastly affected by the market. And in the summer, fall of 2007, the recession that hit the country hard in 2008 took over. And as a result, sponsors pulled back their sponsor dollars. The team cut back the number of cars they're going to field, and you get the old pat on the back that says, KJ, you did a great job, but we don't have a spot for you anymore. So that's what sent me back here. You're wondering, why are you at West Texas A&M now? That's because I needed a job, and at the time, the athletic media relations position at WT was open. I had a friend that worked on campus. He still does. You may know Randy Ray. He and I went to school together, did radio together, and he called me and said, hey, this job's open. I think you need to talk to our ED about it. We did. I ended up down here. But since coming here, I've managed to stay involved from time to time in auto racing as I've met some folks that run a wing sprint car out at Route 66 Motor Speedway. And while I'm not marketing for them, I was turning a wrench, so to speak, being a mechanic for them. And we did that up until a year ago when they sold the operation. But motorsports is a wonderful platform to work. The money that you can make in marketing is very attractive. But as I say, depending on what the national market's doing. You know, if the market's booming, then sponsors are spending their money and they're needing your employee. But if the market goes down, they start cutting back, and now you're having to figure out what you're going to do with your life. But the last thing I want to say is, as I did, you know, if I hadn't walked into the office of the sports information director at West Texas State, I never would have gotten a start in athletics promotion, which eventually led me to the spot where I got to introduce myself to the guys who were broadcasting auto racing, which led me to the opportunity to meet the folks at the Indianapolis Speedway. You have to market yourself. You know, not everybody is outgoing. I'm the type of guy that I can walk up to someone I don't know at a gas station because they've got a cool Camaro and ask about their car. Not everybody can do that, but you have to be able to at least say, hey, my name is Kent Johnson. I'm doing this and I'm really interested in what you have going on. Can you tell me about it? Because a lot of times when you express an interest to somebody, that tells them this is a person that wants to get it done. You cannot hide behind your computer. Even as a marketing professional, so much stuff is done now with your technology, with your iPads, your computers, even your phone. You can send out all the sponsor paraphernalia and publicity that you want. But at some point, you got to pick up the phone, talk to people, or at an event, walk up to them and say, hey, I'm Kent Johnson, I'm representing so-and-so, and this afternoon at 3, we're going to do a presentation. I think you might be interested in it, and it'd be nice if you could show up. You've got to be able to step out there, sell yourself, and you'll be surprised at the opportunities that come your way. I appreciate you all letting me come talk to you now. We're going to bring Dr. Gerlich up. He's going to show you things on the video board. I couldn't do that for you, but hopefully when we're done, you've got some questions and we can do some Q&A. Thank you.
If you have any questions, we have a few minutes, Ken, and if you guys could come.
Okay, sure.
So they have questions for you. Just we have a few minutes for quick Q&As. Excellent information, excellent comments.
We put them to sleep.
Yeah. I see that glazed over look. So I actually have a question for, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, Kent Johnson.
Ken Johnson. So Mr. Johnson, so
Yeah.
you said you were mostly in like the like the Indy 500 kind of races. Were you ever in any like Daytona races as well?
Yeah, absolutely. 98, 99, I worked for a team called Collegiate Motorsports. We were a NASCAR Winston Cup team. You know, my first thrill in racing as an insider was the 1999 Daytona 500. That was back in the day when you had to qualify for the race. It wasn't like now where you buy a charter and you're automatically in. And we were a underfunded team, had a driver named Rich Bickle, and we qualified. We were running 13th midway through out of 42 cars when there was a major accident, and a car, it was like Dorothy in the house, came down on top of us, and that was the end of it. So I got to do the medical building. The driver was fine, but we did all the TV interviews, and I got pretty immersed there. But during my time in NASCAR, my first driver was Darrell Waltrip, who was best friends with Dale Earnhardt Sr. So I got to, I won't say hang out, but got to know him and his son Dale Jr. and stuff like that. We, won't say personal friends, but we had business crossings together.
What would you say would be your, like, not just you personally, your like most memorable or favorite thing that happened in racing? Like mine personally was when Ford raced Shelby American, and I don't remember what the other one was, and Ken Miles was driving for Ford Shelby American and won that Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, for me it was because we go back. My family was originally from Indiana. My granddad as a kid would go down to the Speedway. I say as a kid, he was in his 20s, but this is back before things got corporate like they are now. And when it would rain, they would let the public go out on the track and drive around to dry the track. He did that. My dad played in the Purdue band, and they are the feature band at the Indy 500. So for 3 years, he was there on the track playing in the band. And then for me to get to first be the PR director for the series that competed there was neat. But no, the standout had to be in 2005 when we had a driver named Dan Weldon, who that was the year that Danica Patrick raced at Indianapolis. In the final 20 laps, there was numerous yellow flags, and Danica would lead at the yellow, and then Dan would pass her, and he ultimately won. And everyone thinks of the race as the year Danica was there rather than the race that Dan Weldon won. But to win Indy 500 and get to be involved with the post-race festivities. That year also, one of the drivers I represented was Tony Kanaan. He sat on the pole. So that to me was the ultimate in racing, because I always knew the Indy 500 was special because that was the one Sunday each year my parents didn't make me go to Sunday school. We stayed home and listened on the radio, and that meant something. And then here, 30 years later, I'm smack in the middle of it. So that's, that was pretty cool.
Well, thanks so much. Just quick comment. When I came in 1987, August 23rd, I drove on I-40 19 hours from San Diego to Canyon, Texas, and I'm still here. But because of this road, Nick, Kent also knows, we made close to 100 trips to Santa Fe in the last 38 years, me and my wife. So there is a lot of nostalgia, heritage, and that's why we selected this topic. But thanks so much. I hope we have another session next year because it's a big event. But thank you so much.